Hello and welcome to Creation Speaks. I'm glad that you could join me today. Today, I want to talk a little bit about being creative and really using the gifts and talents that God has put into your life. And I want to start this with the question, when did we stop trying things? And what mean by that is, when did you stop trying to create things, to share your work with the world around? When we were when we are young, we attempt many things. Yet as we grow older, we settle for what life hands us and we stop trying things. I was thinking this morning about the parable of talents. If you are unfamiliar with that story, you can read about it in Matthew 25. In the story, the master gives each servant a talent. And to the servants, they went and traded them and increased in profits. But there was one, on the other hand, he went and buried his talent. The only one that he had, he went and buried it. In the story, we learn that the one who buried his talent perceived that his master was hard and he was afraid of him. In reading the passage, it does not appear that the master was cruel. On the contrary, when the master gave the servants talents, he gave them each according to their ability. The master took time to learn the strengths of each of his servants and what they were capable of. And he didn't give them anything beyond what they could handle. And it's the same thing in our lives. God doesn't give you and me things that we are unable to handle, but he has put investments in us. He's put gifts, he's put talents and resources. Now, sometimes I feel stuck and I ask myself, does God want me to do this or that? How do I know which way to go? And sometimes I cannot do something good because I'm afraid I don't have the ability, or maybe that I'm not even called to do it. So I end up just doing nothing. And in essence, kind of burying those desires that God's put in me. God has not called us to disconnect from work and repress our natural abilities and creative desires. He calls us to be more human and expand upon what we have. We are to influence the world with our work, not the other way around. We're not to let the world influence us, but our lives to influence the world. We're salt and light. So what did the Lord teach me in art class? So here's a story of an experience that I had when I was in college. I took a computer graphics class, and midway through the semester, we would present our art class. Well, I was terrified because really the only experience that I had before that was in high school, and that was disastrous. I can remember being so nervous, feeling like I'm stuttering in high school. My face would turn red. So I was afraid, and I can remember that day. The day came for me to get up and share, and I just prayed, God, you have to do this. Lord, I just give it to you here. And I think God wants us to do that. So if there's something that's making you afraid, something that God's given you and you want to share it with the world around, pray about it. God, give me the courage, give me the ability to not chicken out. But you know what happened that day, the day that I shared? God changed things that day. And the day that I shared in that class, I was alive. I had so much fun getting up and sharing the work that I had put together. So what did the Lord want me to learn that day? Was it to share my work and not be afraid? Was it to know that I could trust the Lord and share what God's put in me? Many times before and after, I've buried the things I desired to share. I became afraid. I'm still learning just like you and I. So, don't beat yourself up. We're learning to trust God, and we're learning to know that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. God's power is at work in us, transforming us, making us more, making us alive. And that's in Ephesians 3:20, if you want to go back and read that. Why is it we become so afraid? Maybe because something we shared flopped in the past and we didn't get much response. Or maybe we listened to that inner critic saying, "Oh, that's a dumb idea," or "That's no good." Over time, we start to listen to the negative and we become lazy and stick with what is safe. We believe, as believers, we must put on the new man and be salt and light. We share and give of ourselves, use our talents, money, our resources to influence the world around us. Start sharing the things God put in you, and it will become a turning point. It's a quote by Austin Kleon. We're all afraid of being terrified as amateurs, but in fact today it is the amateur, the enthusiast, who pursues her work in the spirit of love. In French, the word means lover. Regardless of the potential for fame, money, or career, who often has the advantage over the professional. I like that quote. I can see that because when we're young, we make things and do things and not really worried so much about doing it just right. I remember when I did my first zine. So there was a little zine that me and some friends did. It was called Thirst. And I really enjoy creating things and making things. And I wanted to do this little mini magazine, and I called it Thirst. None of us had any clue really what we were doing, but we experimented, we tried this and that, and I created it in the computer and eventually had it printed and we distributed it. Um, no one really knew much about it, about putting it together, how to do it, but we loved doing the work and we did it and it happened. And so sometimes I think we just have to get out there, start experimenting, start trying different things. Don't bury your talents, but get out there and try the things. Don't get hung up in the details. And one more quote by Austin. This is yet another trait of amateurs. They'll use whatever tools they can get their hands on to try to get their ideas into the world. I like that. So the question, when did we stop trying things? It's time to start being creative again. So start making, start creating. Thank you for joining me today for these 8 or so minutes of your life. But I hope these words encourage you and you're able to really get out there and do something to share your gifts with the world.
Well, thank you again for tuning in to this episode on Creation Speaks podcast. If you want more podcasts and devotions, head on over to our website, creationspeaks.com. And there I do a lot of writing. I post audio and video. And then I also do some of my woodworking. So a great way to support this is I do handmade wooden pens, coffee scoops, and other items. And, I enjoy making things, sharing. And I hope through it all that you might find some encouragement and know that you're created in the image of God. As a believer, you've been redeemed and God started a work in you. And I hope together we can grow together. Again, thanks again and talk to you next time.